of Trustees workshop, May 19th, 2020 is called to order. We have the presence of a quorum attending on a video conference. Notice of this meeting has been posted online for at least 72 hours. On March 16th, 2020, Governor Greg Abbott granted a request by Attorney General Ken Paxton to temporarily suspend a limited number of open meetings laws to the extent necessary to allow telephonic or video conference meetings in response to the coronavirus. In accordance with those suspended rules, the board certifies the following. Although members of the board are not gathered in a central physical location, we do have a quorum in attendance at this meeting by video conference. This meeting is being held by video conference because the convening at one location of a quorum of the governmental body is not appropriate during the COVID-19 public health emergency. Based on current guidance from federal, state, and county authorities concerning large gatherings and social distancing during the COVID-19 public health emergency, there is no established location for an audience to observe the meeting. However, the live meeting is accessible through district website and YouTube links, which were timely and appropriately provided to the public and media as part of the meeting posting through a news release and via the district's website. As we would at any in-person meeting, and members of the public who have followed the standard instructions for registering to speak during the public comment portion would be allowed 5 minutes to speak. All other meeting procedures will adhere to the board adopted procedures to the extent practicable. A video recording of this meeting is being made and will be available to the public on the district's website. As of 6 o'clock today, there were no, 4:30, I think, there was no one that had signed up for audience to the patrons. So at this time, Dr. Randall, I believe we can move forward to going over our agenda items for our board meeting for Thursday night.
Thank you, Ms. Danziger, and hello, everyone. The first item on the agenda is that we ask that the Board of Trustees approve the Memorandum of Understanding between the Fort Bend County Juvenile Board, Lamar Consolidated Independent School District, Needville Independent School District, and Katy Independent School District to operate a juvenile justice alternative education program. Most people refer to it as JJAEP, known as the Fort Bend County Alternative School in Rosenberg for the 2020-21 school year. Lamar CISD serves as the physical agent for the Rosenberg campus. The next item, we ask that the board approve the Memorandum of Understanding for Educational Services for Fort Bend County Juvenile Detention Center for the 2020-2021 school year. This is the system where if a student or an individual commits a crime in the county, they can be detained and we educate them, and the average length of stay is about 18 to 20 days.
Dr. Randall, I have a question. This is Alex Hunt. How has instruction been impacted by COVID-19 at the Juvenile Detention Center?
Good evening. Students are still receiving instruction. They are receiving instruction remotely through Ingenuity.
Thank you.
The next item, we ask that the Board of Trustees approve a resolution modifying the requirements for all students to have an annual physical examination prior to participation in designated University Interscholastic League programs and other district extracurricular programs as identified by the superintendent. This basically will allow those kids with the waiver to use their PPE on file from 2019 to 2020 for this upcoming school year, and the only thing they have to do is complete a UIL medical history form.
question. I have a question.
Go ahead, Ms. Kaminsky.
Okay. Dr. Randall, on page 50, where it's talking about the Legislative Council, it says, if approved by the Council and the Commissioner of Education, this amendment shall be effective immediately. Has that passed?
Yes, ma'am, it has.
Okay.
I actually serve on that legislative council.
Okay, thank you.
The next item, we ask that the Board of Trustees approve Timberwolves as the mascot and forest green, blue, and black as the school colors for Tamaron Elementary School. The next item, we ask that the Board of Trustees ratify the financial and investment reports as presented.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Ms. Kaminsky.
On page 56, some of the disbursements from last month increased, and I'm sure there's a logical, but one of them was the miscellaneous contracted services. Last month it was 270,000, and this month it's 1,162,000.
Yes, ma'am. In that category, let's see, you're looking at 629.
629, yes, ma'am.
Okay, in that category, we've got payments to the city of Rosenberg for security and also our quarterly payment. So a lot of the difference has to do with the fact that we had a quarterly payment that was due this month, and those were significant. The total of just the city of Rosenberg was about 500, almost 570,000. And then there were a couple other large disbursements for our payment to PASA, and then also TASB.
Okay. The other one was utilities, the 625.
Okay, so we had a payment for electricity. We may not have, it may have not met a cutoff last month. But anyway, the large item there was our payment for electricity, which is right at 439,000. And then, you know, the other utilities such as water, gas, phone service.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
I had a question.
There's a question?
You have a question for Ms. Williams and Mr. Welch.
Okay. Mr. Welch, go ahead.
Joy, go ahead, because I think you raised your hand first, and you might
I couldn't see. I don't see her on my screen.
Okay, thanks, John.
There we
So
go.
on the same line, you answered already some that I was going to ask from what Ms. Kaminsky asked, but I was looking at the professional services, the jump there. Is it 621, Jill?
The largest payment in that category is for our attorney, Rogers, Morris, and Grover, and that was $99,708. So that was the bulk of that.
Okay. Next would be the textbooks and other reading materials. Some of this stuff's probably kind of obvious, but I just wanted to ask anyways. It went up by 150,000 in there.
The
632. 632.
Oh, textbooks and okay, I'm sorry. Most of that was Scholastic Incorporated, which was 132,000 roughly.
What does that mean? Like we made a purchase from them, or we?
Yes, instructional materials.
We just made a purchase. Okay. How about the general supplies and materials, line 639?
Okay, the big ones there would be Pro Computing and SHI Government Solutions. SHI is our Microsoft licenses, and that was close to 250,000. And
Okay.
then Pro Computing was right at 460,000. Those are the flat panel projects at Arredondo and Bowie.
Gotcha. Okay. Two more for me. D, line 649, miscellaneous operating costs, fees, and dues.
All right, that one, excuse me, almost half of that was PS Lightwave.
Which is what? For what?
I believe that's our fiber. David Jacobson could probably give a little more detail on that.
Gotcha.
Yes, PS Lightwave is our internet provider, and they also manage our fiber. Some of it we lease from them, and some of it we own, and they maintain it for us.
That on that one. Thank you.
My question was on the utilities, and if you could help us and the public understand. I understand that you have to run the air conditioning when there's nobody there, but we haven't had anybody in the schools as far as for academic lessons and activities since mid-March. So what is a normal utility bill on a monthly basis compared to this one?
Well, typically, from memory, the Cavallo Energy, it typically is around 400 to 450,000. And that's what it is this month. And and I'm pretty sure, I mean, not Kevin, but Aaron Morgan might be able to give a little bit more detail on that. But I'm pretty sure that they schedule the AC to run on a certain time period, and it probably hasn't changed a whole lot. But I would say that M&O would probably need to answer that question for us.
My thought is that when I'm on vacation, I leave my AC on, but it's not as cool, obviously, and I'm not running as much water and the other things. So I would assume we would be saving a little bit of money there with all of the buildings that we have, but it doesn't sound like we are. Is that accurate?
We have run on a modified schedule. We are saving some funds, but we do have days where the building is occupied due to technology handouts. We also have custodial crews in the buildings. So yes, we're not running quite as many hours, and we don't have quite the heat load that we have when we've got 700 or 800 kids running around, but we are still running those buildings to keep them at a certain temperature. So there are costs that are incurred.
The other piece of this might be that, you know, the bills lag. So this is the April disbursement. So this could have been for March services.
That is correct. There's at least a month lag in the bill time.
Okay, so we would probably see that go down a little bit next month.
We're hopeful, but it's getting hot out there too.
Yes.
So we'll have to see.
All right, thank you.
The next item, we ask the Board of Trustees to consider approval of budget amendment request.
Dr. Randall, I had one additional question on the previous item.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Do you see any financial impact? I know this is a question that Ms. Kaminsky asked at the last meeting, but do you see at this point in time any financial impact from the shutdown, or do you see any change in the forecast over the next few months?
Yes, we are, and we're refining those forecasts each month. There are a number of categories of expense that budgeted items have not been purchased under, so we should see some savings. But there are also some revenue categories that we're not going to meet budget on. For instance, facility rentals, some of our Medicaid revenues and things like that.
Thank you.
Were there any questions on the budget amendment request?
I have one.
I think that's Miss Williams, Miss
Yeah,
Danziger.
yes, go ahead.
On page 59, I just wanted to know what we're moving money around from,
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
sorry, I was reading, so page 59, the second item, where we're moving money from co-curricular, extracurricular to data processing security. What would those normally, the 45,000, what would that normally have been spent on?
That was a, so that since this work is benefiting the special education program, special education had budgeted some funds in function 36, which are the extracurricular, co-curricular activities. And because of the shutdown and other things, they're not going to use those funds. And so they're contributing it to the PowerPoint work.
So it stays within their area, just for a different function. Got it. Okay,
Yes.
thank you. That's all I have for that. Thank you.
I have a question. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Ms. Kaminsky.
I guess I missed a point about PowerPoint. I'm not understanding what are we actually doing at PowerPoint for special ed? Did we ever get a report on that program?
We provided, I believe, an informational item, not last month, but the month before, in regard to some compensation. But we have, and we are creating the CIBC program that was formerly housed at the ALC unit. We're actually moving that unit out to PowerPoint so that we could provide some additional support and space for those kids to serve them at a better capacity than we currently feel we have the ability to do in the 3 portables that we have at the ALC complex.
Do you see any issues with that when if we do this social distancing and number of children that'll be there?
We do not at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
The next item, we ask the Board of Trustees to approve the order authorizing the issuance of Lamar Consolidated Independent School District Unlimited Tax Refund Bonds, which may be issued in 1 or more series.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
What is this exactly? It seems like a little bit different wording than some of the other bonds, and I could be wrong there, but what is this, especially compared to the next item down?
So we have two different activities here, and ultimately we will probably only exercise one of these two. In August, we are required to remarket and set a new rate term for our variable rate bonds. We have $90 million in outstanding variable rate bonds. And we have a requirement under the order to take that action by August the 17th. If we can go to market with those bonds or with the refunding bonds and achieve favorable rates and a favorable transaction, then we will actually issue refunding bonds instead of doing the conversion, which is the next item. And we've got Terrell Palmer and Jonathan Farrell's online with us. And if they would like to add some detail to that, I'd like for them to speak to it as well.
This is Terrell Palmer, and Jill did a great summary there, and they are linked together. And having both of those items gives the district complete flexibility to go ahead and issue the refunding bonds if the market is favorable. However, if it's not favorable, then what we would do is just issue the bonds with a short-term roll, much like we've done in the past. Interest rates are very low right now, and we're seeing a lot of school district PSF bonds issued throughout the state. And so we're not expecting any problems with marketing your refunding bonds.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Ms. Brunzell.
This doesn't have anything to do with the bond, the bonds that we're talking about doing in the future in August or whenever.
No, it does not. This has to do with our existing variable rate bonds.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Jill actually took care of 2 agenda items. If everybody's okay with the second item, we'll move to asking the Board of Trustees to approve the 2020 historic site exemption qualifications for Symington School. And that estimated amount of tax relief is $6,484.24.
Now, this is the same one that's been coming to us, I think, ever since I've been on the board, if I'm correct.
That's correct.
And it seems to me that we ended up not taking action ever on this. Can you refresh my memory? I think it doesn't hit all the qualifications that we want.
It does meet the qualifications for a historic site exemption. It has the historical marker. However, in the past, the consideration has been that there's a photography studio that operates there. It's very limited use, and that studio does do other things for the community. But in the past, no, there hasn't been action taken on it.
So it's a business, and I thought it was a homestead too, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Ms. Banzer, I was going to ask that too, is that, because it says here, this site has provided benefits to the community, so I was curious what those benefits were.
From what I understand, they host community events there. And that's really all the detail I have.
Okay, thank you. Going to ask about that on the next one as well, if we want to.
Yeah, the next item is a request, and this is discussion and possible action on the part of the board, and it is a request from Teague Waddell House, and they've applied for a historic exemption for taxes to be levied for the 2020-21 school year.
And refresh me, I don't think this one's ever come before us.
This is the first request.
Okay, and again, go ahead, Ms. Williams, you might have the same question I do. How is this?
The criteria, I mean, yes.
Yes, because if anything, I want our board to be consistent.
So this one also has the historical marker. It was built in 1910. This is not being used as a residence currently because they're doing some renovations. It does not have I did look to see if it had a residential homestead exemption, and it does not. And it's not being used for commercial use.
So it is different from the previous one.
Yes.
But is it being used by the community, I guess, in any way, is for the public use?
I'm not sure what it's actually being used 4 right now because it's under, they're doing renovations to it.
Okay, thank you.
I can say that the folks who are renovating this house emailed me, and I don't know if they emailed anybody else on the board, but they wanted my help to get this on the agenda item, and I didn't do that, but I'm glad to see it here, and I'm disappointed to hear that it's not being used by the community. So I wonder if that's in their plans in the future, and I have no way of knowing that. Wouldn't expect you to know that either.
But I think when we start trying to look at these historical markers and we're giving them a tax break, we need to know kind of what their situation is and be consistent across the board. That's my question. Okay, is there any other questions that they have for this?
Kay, I have one.
Yes, Ms. Kaminsky.
Where it says on page 145, under land segments, it's marked as commercial, but it's also saying a residential single family home. And under home site, it says yes.
But that's probably because in the past, it was used as a home site.
Was used as a home site originally. Okay.
And it's in the past, it's been used as a business and a home site. And I really only know that through living, in the community. But at this particular point in time, it's not being used as a residence as far as I know.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I've not been around as long as some people, but I've never heard of Silk Stocking Road, but maybe somebody else has.
Ms. Danziger, I think Mr. Hunt had a question.
Yes, Mr. Hunt, go ahead.
I did have a question. I don't know if this was before maybe Mr. Morris, but I seem to remember when we were considering one of these applications last year, and we looked at the board policy, and I could be thinking about something else, but I seem to remember it also having a requirement in our board policy that it be a nonprofit as well. And that was a reason that we didn't take action on one of these. So I don't know if Mr. Morris could look into that for Thursday, or if he knows.
This is Rick. I can check that for Thursday off the top of my head. I don't recall if that's one of the policy requirements.
All right, any other questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Morris, to help, and thank you, Mr. Hunt.
The next item, we ask that the Board of Trustees ratify donations, and Carter PTO donated $32,476.43 to purchase a school marquee. The next item, we ask that the Board of Trustees approve the membership of the Attendance Boundary Committee for 2019-2020 as presented with the proposed timeline using LCISD zoning process, and charge the ABC with setting the boundaries for Randall High School and Harry Wright Junior High School for the fall of 2020.
I think there was some concern today because on the timeline, they did have May 19th on there. So I don't know if that was just trying to highlight that we were going to talk about it tonight. So.
Ms. Williams, I think Ms. Williams had her hand up.
Yes, Ms. Williams.
Oh, well, that wasn't what I was going to ask, but yes, but Mike cleared that up for me in an email, or Dr. Randall,
Okay.
that it was due to our current circumstances. We were going to have a committee meeting. It was going to be a board committee meeting. That's what that was about. But I'm not sure.
Our own board meeting.
Correct. I'm on that committee. Yes.
Right.
So
Yes.
that was. But
Okay.
I don't know if the latest email is that, Dr. Randall, are we going to be postponing that, or that just won't happen this time?
I'll let Dr. Rockwood kind of take a couple of minutes and talk through this agenda item.
Okay.
Yeah, so as mentioned, traditionally we would have had a board zoning committee meeting this evening, and the board zoning committee had a similar meeting in December prior to the Tamaron zoning process. And the purpose of that meeting is just on our overall timeline. We would go over all of the items that are here in this board book. Due to COVID-19, and we are meeting via video conference tonight, all of the actual board committee meetings were canceled for this week. And so if there are any questions about the documentation, about the committee membership or the process, we're certainly prepared to answer those this evening at the workshop.
Any other questions? Ms. Williams?
So are we hoping to have these in person?
That's a great question. I think obviously we've seen each week things change and we get new notifications from the governor about reopen Texas in different phases. Right now, as many of you know, we are in the middle of our bond process and we are still working through those virtually. We do have a holiday coming up next Monday, and so we'll meet again in roughly 2 weeks for that. And so when we get to mid-June, it's TBD or to be determined right now what that's going to look like. But even with the current bond process and this zoning process, we are keeping our options open and working with the committee. Obviously, if the committee feels like it can be successful virtually or via video conference like this meeting, we would take that into consideration. But if we're in a position where we could have in-person meetings, we'll certainly look at that as well. But I believe the first actual meeting of the Randall Wright Zoning Committee will be on June 15th. So we've got just under a month. And so we'll see how things look then.
How many people would actually be at those meetings? Because you not only have the people on the committee, but people from the administration, correct?
Right. So I did some quick Aggie math here of the committee. So the committee includes 2 representatives from every elementary school, 2 representatives from every middle school, 3 representatives from every junior high, and 3 representatives from every high school. So I got 92 right there, just committee members. And that's traditionally what we have for our secondary complexes. And then roughly, we have anywhere from 15 to 25 staff members who attend those meetings as a resource. If they are in person, they're obviously open to the public, and we have additional seats for anyone who wants to view those. And as we do with all of our committee processes, we put all the materials online for folks to see. So if we go in person for this committee, we definitely crack 100 individuals in a room.
Well, and I was thinking out to myself that there are larger spaces in our boardroom that we could possibly utilize and spread 100 people out if we had to, right?
Correct.
So I've been wondering the same thing, and I wanted to ask this to Dr. Randall. Is the interpretation of Lamar from the governor's office that none of the district facilities can be used through the end of the academic year?
That's the information that that we were operating by, and which is for us, the end of the academic year is June 4th. And now he of course had some other businesses and those types of things that open up. But the only thing that everything was in place, is my understanding, through the end of the school year. And it varies from school districts because some are finishing up actually this week. And he did allow us to be able to, if we chose to do so, have in-person summer school for kids, but we had to follow certain guidelines. But as you know, we've made the decision to just continue to do that virtually during the summer.
What I'm getting at is, I understand that it's closed for academic lessons for the children, students coming to the buildings, and teachers and staff being there. I'm kind of wondering about after hours, the 2020 bond committee, for instance, but since we're talking about the ABC, can we not utilize the physical space of 2 different gyms at a high school and a cafeteria and spread 100 folks out over that vast area after hours? So that's what I was getting at. Is the administration interpreting the governor's orders as not using the buildings at all, or just not for the students to come to class regularly? Because if they can be used in the evening for adults, I think it's much more conducive to having a meeting where you can sit and talk to people, and you can look them in the eye, and you can, look at each other's.
I totally agree with you, and we'll follow up and ask the question again. But as you know, we have churches, for example, that use our rent our facilities, and they won't allow us to allow them to start having services because of the ruling. So, and they haven't given us any. I actually asked the question to the governor about that, and they will not. They wouldn't give us any relief. Now, I don't know why, but I will take and follow up and ask again whether or not we could have these types of meetings because we would much prefer to have that type of setting because we can spread out really in a cafeteria rather easily and handle these things. But the way that they answer the question to us is they asked us to have our attorney to interpret the law to determine whether or not what we are thinking about doing, whether or not it violates the governor's orders. And that's how they have put it to us every time we've asked them about that.
I see.
Never just an easy yes, no.
I wish it was. Ms. Danziger, Ms. Williams has a question.
Go ahead.
I know we spoke about this last month, but the master plan principles are back in here from, we had it for the bond and now it's in for the zoning. So we mentioned, or you mentioned last month that we would maybe have a chance to get together to review these since they haven't been updated since 2003. Are we going to have a chance to do that before the, maybe next month or before this gets going?
Actually, the process of doing that, I don't think is going to be a one and done type of response. And that's how we were approaching it, that it would be an approach where we would take and the board would actually take a look at the master plan principles. We would research and provide whatever information the board needed for that. And we weren't planning on trying to do something this next month, but to establish a workshop where all of the questions could be answered on that. And of course, you can certainly be, the board could have a workshop on this at any time. That is strictly up to the board. That's how we were approaching it, though, Ms. Williams.
And I guess my question was for Ms. Danziger, so I apologize for the confusion. Yes.
Well, yeah, we need to, since we really had already said that we were going to look at it so we'd be ready for the next bond, it would not change anything for Randall High School because Randall High School's already built.
Right, but what?
But we need to look at it for future schools, because if we changed and for future schools, it'd be something we'd do a workshop that Dr. Randall and his group would get us the information. And then we'd, as they've done in the past, they've taken it to the public for public input too. And we've had that, I remember doing that a few years ago. So yes, that's something I don't know if we can do it next month, but with something we could look into maybe in July when I don't think we have a board meeting in July scheduled. So it's something that we could get some of that information and sit down and start looking at it and working on it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah,
if that's okay.
Because I know on the bond committee when I was listening in, somebody brought that up that it says 2003, and so I wanted to say, of course I couldn't, that yes, that was something we had discussed as well. So yes, if we could have the workshop, that would be great.
Yeah, I think that if Dr. Rockwood mentioned that it's been looked at, it hasn't because it hadn't been tweaked. It's not that it's never been looked at. It's looked at before every bond, before we send it to a bond committee, if we're wanting to change the size of schools, because it changes the cost of the school and how much the bond is going to have to be.
That's correct. And I think we hear from the trustees that there might be an interest in looking at the master plan principles more in depth. I think also, as mentioned, it's not going to change anything specifically for the bond program that we're working on right now or the opening of Randall High School, but it is a big decision in terms of wanting to get community input, give the board information, And if I recall from last month, I think we talked about perhaps setting something up either in the summer or in the fall where we could look at the master plan principles and give the board some information on that and make sure we have a process to get input from community members. And so we definitely heard that that's the interest of the board. And if that's something you want us to put in motion, we can create some type of schedule for that.
I'd just like to reiterate that last month, if anybody goes back on the YouTube channel, our YouTube channel, and watches, they'll see a discussion, but that's unlikely to happen. So while these principles were discussed before this bond committee commenced, they were not picked over and gone through with the fine-tooth comb, and that we have condoned it. There's lots of questions about it, and we don't have time to adequately go through it all, but we've already given it to the bond committee. So I just want that to be known again.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yes, Ms. Kaminsky.
You know, I had asked to consider having a workshop on in July concerning COVID and updating what's going to be happening in August. Could this be something that we could add to that if we would decide to have a meeting?
I think that's something up for discussion that we can talk about at a later time. Okay. Once we talk with Dr. Randall and see what his administration needs for us to do over the summer.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are we ready? Okay. The next item is that we ask the Board of Trustees to approve the nomination of a candidate for position 4B on the Texas Association of School Boards Board of Directors. As you saw in your information page, Rander currently holds the position and is seeking re-election.
And this is one of those items we don't have to take action if we don't want to, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
I did want to ask though, was anybody from our board interested on serving on? We can ask that. I tried it a few years ago and went through the whole process and was told I needed to do their leadership training before I could be considered. So is anybody else on our board interested in being?
I don't know. So I think Ms. Bronzell had looked into it too, didn't you?
I did, yeah. There was some things that I hadn't done that leadership stuff either, and they don't tell you really what you need to do beforehand, so.
And it's very time consuming.
But I definitely did all the paperwork and got the interview. So I made it that far.
Okay, I just wanted to ask. Thank you.
The next item, we ask that the board approve the design development for Brazos Crossing Administration Building exterior improvements as presented by BLK.
Do we have a presentation, Dr. Rand?
Mr. Rice is coming on right now.
There he is. Thank you.
President Danziger, with your permission, I will introduce Mr. Brad Ewing of VLK Architects, who does have a design development presentation for you and the board this evening regarding the recladding of the Brazos Crossing Administration Building. And so, Mr. Ewing, if you would kindly begin your presentation.
Good evening, Board of Trustees and Dr. Randall. Let me share my screen here. Can you guys all see my screen? Okay. Good evening. It's my pleasure to present the design development for the Brazos Crossing Administration Building renovations. We're currently at design development, and tonight we're just going to go over the project narrative and the development we've had so far in this project, and some of the other extra information and next steps for this project. As far as the project, it was approved for BOK to address the design back in September. The project completion would be summer of 2021, and it would be a competitive sealed proposal for the contractor. As far as project scope, we would first remove the existing brick and glazing system of the Brazos Crossing building, and then come back with insulated glass units, a water and air barrier, building insulation, and sealants. We, at the beginning of this project, spent a bit of time investigating the existing condition of the building and determined some of the failures of the current construction of the building. So when we come in and do a new skin for this building, we'll be addressing all those concerns that have caused that building to fail in multiple ways. The design committee, after reviewing many different options, decided to go with this option that would use insulated glass units and aluminum composite panel for the building envelope. Just like a brief description of that skin, basically you have, right now the building only has single pane windows. So there's, this new window system is like what we currently put on new buildings. It has an airspace in between, so it keeps the heat outside and allows natural light in. And as far as where the brick used to go, we would come back with the aluminum composite material panel system that would be adhered to the face of the building. It's lightweight, and it allows us to fit the new insulation and weatherproofing behind it. So this is a view of that new system. As you can see, we would have updated building signage for your guys, updated logo. We would be replacing where that brick used to be with the aluminum composite material panels and the glass units. And then we would, of course, be providing new weatherproofing and building insulation, which would, you're going to see a drastic improvement in the building performance after this installation. As far as the schedule for this project, upon approval tonight, we would move into construction document phase, and we would start construction in September 2020, finishing up the summer of 2021. As far as budget, right now we are at budget, and we're ready to move forward. And on the video call right now, I also have my associates, Rudy Starks and Todd Lean, if you guys have any other questions regarding this project.
How much disruption is it going to be to the administrators on campus? They're gonna...
As far as yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, this is Todd Lean. We're still working through that, but we anticipate that it'll be a phased construction, that we're going to work with the schedule of the building and those folks within it. We realize that everybody there is there year round, but we're going to work with them to phase the construction as we go around the building to cause as little disruption as possible.
And I forget how old this building is, but we purchased this building. We did not build it, just letting some of the other board members know this was not one of our original buildings.
Ms. Danziger, Ms. Williams has a question.
Oh, yes. Go ahead, Ms. Williams.
I haven't been there in a little while, so I'm trying to remember where the sign is that says Brazos Crossing. Is that still going to be there, or is that getting taken down? That one that would be to the, if you're facing the building on the right, it's kind of covered up by a tree right now.
We don't have plans to address it, but maybe Kevin can address that.
No, at this time, the marquee that says Brazos Crossing would not be affected by this project. That's correct.
Maybe we can trim the tree around it. I know Mr. Welch has always mentioned that it's hard to see, so maybe in this process we could trim that up a little bit. All right, that's it.
Do a little landscaping.
Hey, I have
Yes, Ms. Kaminsky.
Do we have any plans for the interior of the building? Is that in the future, or I know this is just strictly exterior, correct?
Correct.
Do we have any plans for the interior?
At this time, Ms. Kaminsky, we have done several things over the last couple of years in moving the departments around to become more efficient. So no, we do not have anything on the interior at this time.
No walls, no carpet. Okay.
No, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you, and thank you for your presentation.
Thank you. The next item, we ask the board to approve Bass Construction for the Alternative Learning Center addition and renovation in the amount of $10,303,200 and authorize the board president to sign the agreement.
I'd like to know, is this roughly within the ballpark that was pitched to the public in the 2017 bond, this dollar amount?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. The next item, we ask the Board of Trustees to approve Terracon for material testing for the Terry High School additions and renovations in the total amount of $12,386 and authorize the board president to execute the agreement.
Were there any questions?
The next item, we ask the Board of Trustees to approve amendment to the contract with Ramallah Construction Company to establish the guaranteed maximum price #2 for project #2 for the additions and renovations of Terry High School in the amount of $356,788.
Yes, Ms. Williams.
Would somebody mind going over on page 195, the numbers for Satterfield and, I don't even know how to say the last name, Pointikes, maybe? Under the, starting with the alternate controls. So the fourth column.
You want, Ms. Williams, you want us to do that before finishing page 178?
You skipped, yeah.
Yes, we're on page 178.
I got so excited to see it. I'm sorry.
Okay, so we're still on 178, correct?
All right.
Terry High School.
Okay, the next item, so we can hurry up and get over there. The next item, we ask that the Board of Trustees approve amendments to the contract with Ramallah Construction Company to establish the guaranteed maximum price #1 for project #1 for the additions and renovations of Lamar Consolidated High School and Lamar Junior High School in the amount of $6,648,254. The next item, we're asking the board to approve Terracon for materials testing for Morgan Elementary School in the total amount of $85,000 and authorize the board president to execute the agreement.
I believe now this is where no, not yet.
We're almost there.
Almost there.
The next item, we ask the Board of Trustees to approve Ramallah Construction for the construction of Morgan Elementary School in the amount of $23,580,000 and authorize the board president to sign the agreement.
Okay, now?
Nah.
Okay, so I just had a question if somebody could explain, so again, on page 195, the numbers, 4th column, 4th row, starting with the alternate number 1A ALC controls, the 4 items in red.
Yes, ma'am. When we take bids on this project, we had the base bid that came in at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then they have an hour to turn in their alternates at 3 o'clock. So what Satterfield and Ponticus did is, I guess they figured that they were going to try to make up some of their bid, and that's how they put in there on their alternates from alternate 1A, 1B, 1C, and 1D.
Interesting. Okay.
Sometimes the general contractors play with those alternates that way. If they feel they were too high or too low, they do that.
So compared to the 213,000, 250,000, and then there's a credit of 2 million.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That's all I have for that. Thank you.
The next item, we ask the Board of Trustees to approve Estes McClure and Associates as commissioning agents for Lamar Consolidated High School and Lamar Junior High additions and renovations package number 1 and package number 2 in the amount of $28,000 and authorize the board president to execute the agreement. The next item, we ask the Board of Trustees to approve Terracon. Oh, I'm sorry, did someone have a question?
Did you have a question, Ms. Williams?
No, I'm good. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Okay.
The next item, we ask the Board of Trustees to approve Terracon for materials testing for Lamar Consolidated High School and Lamar Junior High School additions and renovations in the amount of $50,300 and authorize the board president to execute the agreement.
Any questions? Okay.
The next item, we ask the Board of Trustees to approve the deductive change order number 2 in the amount of $216,261.79 and final payment of $34,999.40 to C.A. Walker Construction for the construction of support services and maintenance and operations building, and authorize the board president to sign the change order. The next item, we ask that the Board of Trustees approve the purchase of interactive flat panel televisions, installation, hardware services, and electrical work in the amount of $935,867.52.
I have a couple questions on this. Two, the first one is this money, I know this is from the 2017 bond, is this money already in the bank, or is this going to be part of bonds that are sold in the future, in the near future, for to go back to that bond?
This money is already in the bank.
Already in the bank.
Yes.
I'm thinking out loud here, something I know you guys know I like to do now. With the economic impact about to hit our region because of the unemployment and shutting down the world, I'm just wondering if this is a smart way to use $900,000 right now. But my second question is this. The consulting company that we're using is based in Arkansas, from what I can tell. And I know they have an office in College Station, it looks like, or around that area. Is there not an in-state based consulting company that we can use? And maybe somebody can talk a little bit about how we go about choosing consulting companies for this kind of a project.
David Jacobson.
So a few years back, after this is all part of the 17 bond, and what we did was we had companies come in. Our elementary schools use Promethean panels, and our secondary campuses use Smart, and different vendors work with different products. So we had companies come in and walk campuses and give us quotes that we compared for Promethean boards at elementary campuses, and we had a second round of proposals and competitive proposals for secondary campuses with Smart panels. Both companies, Pro Computing at the elementary and Promethean level, and Perena, which I believe is a company you're talking about, that has their home in Arkansas, they were by far the lowest bidder. They've been an excellent partner. They have staff in the area. They're very responsive to us, and we've had no issues with them. They've been an excellent partner, actually.
whiteboards and the projectors and stuff, the majority of them have failed or are failing. Is that the reason for replacing these?
Yes, we replace them after they've reached the end of their useful life. So Promethean and smart panels, we've had some of those 10 years or more. Same thing with projectors. These are all in ones. They're like big TVs now, so we no longer have a panel and a projector. They're all in one.
And of the equipment that is not broken, we keep that for parts, I assume, or we resell it to somebody else? How does that go about?
There's not a whole lot of resale value for old Promethean and smart boards. We've looked, and they're of no value to us, and it's just like they're of no value to anybody else. The projectors, we have been using some for parts, but we've been using them as hot swaps for locations that have projectors still.
All right, so for Promethean boards, let's say you take down a Promethean board that is not, that does work fine still. What do you do with it?
We've been putting them in offices and conference rooms, in locations that didn't have one before but maybe needed one. So you'll see them more in meeting spaces and conference rooms.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And my question is, once you've earmarked money through a bond for a project, can you really use that money somewhere else, or are you kind of, or can you use it within technology? How does that work once you've gotten that money earmarked?
So yes, you are correct. Bond funds can only be used for the purposes for which the voters approved the bond referendum. And these funds would have been in the technology portion of the bond. So of course we have to expend these funds on technology projects. It would just be the timing of it that we might have some latitude on.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
The next item, we ask the Board of Trustees to approve the purchase of uninterruptible power supplies in the amount of $99,907.62 from Rocket IT. Madam President, those are all of the action items.
Guess we can move forward to see our information items. I know you have an update on summer school, and I don't know if you have some more information on that than what's already in the board book.
We really don't. I don't know if Dr. Mosich has any comments. We've been working toward moving to a virtual summer school, and I'll let her share any comments regarding what we've been working on for summer school. But let me also take an opportunity to, you all already know how awesome our teachers and staff are. You know that. And I need to just pat them on the back, shoulder, and anywhere else that I can pat them on, because they have stepped up to the plate in a way like you would not believe. And I also have to compliment Dr. Mosich and her team, because they have really been working a ton of hours trying to make sure that they can come up with a program that ultimately meet our kids' needs. So with that, Dr. Mosich, I'll let you comment on anything else that needs to be regarding summer school.
At this time, we are continuing to move in the direction of virtual instruction, that particular model. As you guys know, there was additional information that was provided from the governor's office, actually from TEA, and we're currently looking at that to see what type of impact that would have on our programming. And so right now, again, we feel pretty confident in the plan that has been created at moving forward with all of the programs that have been identified. The one area that there could be some adjustments have to do with our special ed program, the ESY program. But again, there are some strict restrictions in regard to how we do the summer school programs. So we're wanting to be, it's not just offering the programs. A couple of things that we're having to also look at is staffing the programs during this time as well. We are getting some feedback from teachers that a lot of them are interested in regard to the virtual model for summer school. And so we're very excited about that response and the continued engagement of our kids throughout the summer sessions.
Thank you. Do anybody have any
Mr.
questions?
Hunt has a question, Ms. Danziger, and then I think Ms. Williams.
Okay,
had her hand.
go ahead, Mr. Hunt.
Well, I just had a question for Dr. Mossage and maybe for Ms. Mathis about how we're supporting our students in special education during the shutdown. I know that's an especially difficult challenge because those students need a little bit more hands-on instruction many times, and it's obviously very difficult now. So just wanted to see if you can tell us a little bit about what you're doing for students with special needs.
So basically what we're doing is we're reaching out to all of our families. As you stated, there are some students that have a more difficult time with remote access and learning. And so with that, we are in contact with those parents to get them to help us actually implement the student's IEP. And so we do have weekly check-ins, and we are working with them in any way possible. Again, there is a very small group of students that we're just unable to reach just due to the nature and severity of their disabilities.
I had a question on the extended school year. Is this generally the time frame? I mean, is it usually about 2 weeks, the extended school year?
Typically, it is 4 to 5 weeks. It just depends on when we get out of school and then when we return to school. Because the purpose of ESY is to prevent any type of student regression on goals that they've mastered at whatever % they mastered by the end of a school year. And so we look at weeks off, weeks on, weeks off, kind of like, you know, patterns. We try not to go more than a 3-week period without providing supports and services, but sometimes that can become difficult during the month of August.
Well, I know that this is a challenge that every school and every district is dealing with, and my concern is just especially those students that are, you know, in life skills classes or social skills training, and I see here that we're moving to virtual programming and we're trying to do social skills extended school year programming, but that's going to be mighty difficult over Zoom. So
absolutely
appreciate all that you're doing in order to continue to reach those students, and I hope that we're doing everything we can.
Absolutely. And as Dr. Mossage said, that would be the group of students that we are very much concerned about during the virtual time frame.
Thank you.
I'm trying to give their parents the right support too, because I'm sure they're frustrated and anxious.
Absolutely.
Dealing with their children. Ms. Williams, did you have a question? Or Mr. Hunt, did you have another question? I'm sorry.
No, that was it, Madam President. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I did. Well, 2 things I wanted to add on to Dr. Randall's appreciation for all that the staff and the teachers are doing. I wanted to share a quick piece of communication that I received after a constituent reached out to Dr. Mossage. And so I'm just going to read a little piece of it. It says, she's never spoken with before, and she said she is wonderful and is on top of things. Even if nothing changes, I'm glad to have had contact with her, and she seems like a great person that understands the situation. Thank you for helping out. Anyway, so I just thought, I know that everybody's working very hard, and it's always really good to, and I did send that to Dr. Mossage, so she's already heard it, but I just wanted everybody else to be able to hear that as well. Also, I do have a question about this, the summer school. I don't know if this is exactly related. I waited for this part, but are there going to be college career facilitator counselors available this summer for those that are going in their senior year helping with college applications and just counselors in general, even though it's virtual summer schools? Or do we know what that's going to look like?
Yes, I'm going to let Dr. Maxwell kind of refer or kind of speak to that, because we are working on a plan for that.
Yeah, so we're looking at all of our planning aspects of the summer with virtual, but to have a student go into summer courses, we always have the counselors involved for those students going into and enrolling in the summer courses, as well if they're going into original credit of working with their counselors currently and having them reach out to students and work with them on those courses for original credit. During the summer school, when we were face-to-face in normal conditions, we had a counselor for our students available. We'll continue with that to ensure that our students are prepared and have the supports going forward, even virtually, to help our kids go through the summer sessions.
And does that include those applying for colleges? Just wanted to.
So in summer school, we typically do not have college career facilitators available, but our counselors are also well equipped to help our students with some of the aspects of applying for colleges as well.
Well, did the juniors this year miss their meetings with the college career facilitators that they would have had, so they would?
No, ma'am. We've actually, our college career facilitators have done meetings with our seniors and juniors, and they would go in and even work with some of our freshmen and sophomores. And so they are sharing that information, again, digitally through Naviance to help our students with some of those aspects of our current junior class. But they had done most of their meetings. I can't say 100%, but they've gone through and did meetings with junior classes this year.
So we're going to make sure that everybody that they didn't have a chance to meet with, they will meet with.
Yeah, and yes, ma'am. And currently our college career facilitators are still working and reaching out to students during this virtual time.
Okay, thank you.
And there's a availability that they can reach out, the other a student can reach them too, correct? They have that
Most definitely.
Okay, Ms. Kaminsky, I think you had some questions too.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Maxwell.
What about those that did not graduate? They'll graduate in summer. What are their plans as far as a graduation for them? I think we usually did it end of July or 1st of August.
End of
August. Currently, we are anticipating, one of the things that we're hearing is that one of the processes that we're doing with our remote instructional plan is called the remote, is a check-in with our parents and our teachers in regard to keeping pulses on how our kids are doing. Some of the things that we're hearing from our counselors is that there are a lot of kids that have really taken advantage, particularly at the high school level with the grading system, that we do feel that there's going to be a lot of kids that not necessarily are going to need summer school. But also we have the SB 149 projects happening currently right now. We feel that our kids are being successful in those programs, are on those tasks currently right now. And so we're anticipating the graduations that we have originally in the summer, and a lot of kids meeting those standards for that graduation, as well as we will have another opportunity still on our priority in August for that second group that we need to assist as far as those that have additional credit needs.
Do you think that's going to be with the social distancing, we'll still be able to have it on the campus?
I can tell you right now, obviously, everything changes daily, and I could not speak to what is going to happen at that time period. Obviously, the district itself, we are continuing to have the conversations, responding to the local and state authorities to make the necessary shifts. And so it's important to us to continue to monitor that and then again, plan accordingly.
I asked that because I know it's usually a smaller number. What is it? Usually about 20 to 30 students. I don't want to forget them. Okay. And then Kay, I have another question that will, for special ed.
Go ahead.
I just need a clarification where it says teachers will utilize small group interventions. If it's done virtual, I need an explanation. What do they mean, small group interventions? Is there some other technique that you're going to be able to use?
Well, we can do Zoom meetings with the students, and you can do them in small groups, and you can also implement the interventions that way.
Okay. All right. Thank you, hon. Appreciate it. Good job.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Now, I too have been hearing lots of good things about what's been going out there and how hard all our teachers are working and our administrators, and it makes me very proud. So,
We are too.
all right. Anything else on summer school? Okay, thank you.
Any questions on tax collection report?
I have a question, just, looking at, well, hearing about all our taxes going up, evaluations going up, are we anticipating any, issues coming forward as to making the collections that are still due? And, what about the penalties and interest, waivers, that type of thing? Is that something that we have to be concerned about?
For the current year, we're really looking very good. If you look at page 241, you'll see that as of April, we're at 97.4% collection, which compared to 97.7, 97.6, hovering right around that same position in prior years. Interestingly, last April's tax collections, now I'm on page 239. If you'll see the far left column on page 239, you'll see that we collected about $1.4 million this month. And in April last year, we collected $1.44 million. So we're still collecting about the same as we typically do. And the bulk of our collections are in, we're at roughly 96% by February and March. So we're at the tail end of collections. We will be turning this year's levy over to the delinquent tax attorneys soon. But at this point in time, tax collections are on target. And we're evaluating right now what values will look like for next year.
All right, thank you.
Any questions for payments for construction projects? Bond update?
Since we haven't had a facilities meeting in a little while, is there a quick update on the how things are going, not only with Tameron, but Randall and Wright and the press box? Can we just get a quick update on those projects?
Yes, ma'am. Well, we'll go over the high school and junior high, Randall and Wright. That project is going very well. All the steel is up on both of those sites. Hopefully by the end of the summer, it'll all be dried in, and we're moving along very well. You will see later on in this summer, probably the end of this month, maybe the start of the summer, Copeland Road extension that's going in front of the schools. We will start on that. So everything's moving along very well. The drainage ditch going south about a mile is complete. So all of our drainage is in good shape. Even have a pet alligator in the detention.
Oh, dear.
It's not a pet, it's real.
Be careful.
The next thing is the press box. I will mention the press box is moving along very good. They actually poured the lightweight concrete on the roof deck this week. We have CMU block going up, so you'll see that going up. The crane is not there anymore putting steel because that's all complete. And we are on schedule to complete that project in August.
And the elementary school out there?
President Danziger, Tameron Elementary School is on schedule. It will be substantially complete on July 8th. Dramala has done a very good job working through this COVID-19 issue, and it will be completed on time.
Okay. I'm sure Mr. Hunt is eager to see what it looks like on the inside.
I think he'll be pleased.
All right. Thank you very much for the update.
Yes, ma'am.
Any question on school resource division update?
I have a question on that. There were 9 incidents of what is called documentation. I have no idea what that is. If someone could help me understand that. And that was in the month of March when we only had, a couple of days of school. And then we went to spring break and didn't go back. So kind of curious about that.
Yeah, so documentation would be for incidents where nothing may have occurred, but they're still documenting someone made a comment about something. Dallas, I know that this is related to RPD, but could you provide a little clarity specifically about when an officer, an SRO would have a documentation report?
Sure. If it's an incident that, like Dr. Rockwood mentioned, something that needs to be documented, a comment or something that should have been, that needs to be looked into, but not necessarily a criminal offense. Or if it's a criminal offense where they do not want to file charges, they will go ahead and complete a documentation report so that if something comes up later, we do have a record.
All right. Easy enough. Thank you.
Okay, I have a question.
Sure, go ahead, Ms. Kaminsky.
Dallas, during this time where the kids are not having that contact with the police officers, have there been any kids that have called and trying to locate them or wanting some conversation with them, or have y'all seen any input from the kids that are no longer at school, or any issues that they are expressing to y'all?
I'm not sure exactly what you're asking. If you could.
Well, like we're very concerned, you know, about their social, emotional feelings. Have any of them reached out to any of the officers that had been on the campuses that they tended to gravitate to? Have they reached out to our police department?
I wouldn't know if they've reached out to the individual officers. I know that we have several ways that we monitor social media and some of the comments that are out there on social media. So we do monitor those, and if there's any outreaches or any outcries in those areas, we are being responsive to those.
So that is continuing on even though school is closed?
Oh yes, ma'am. We continue to monitor social media and those areas that and make those referrals whether school's in session or not.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item, hopefully you got a chance to review your brochure that Dr. Rockwood and his staff put together on the COVID-19 response. I'll let him make a couple of comments about that, and we'll try to answer any questions if you have any.
Yeah, hopefully you all received this brochure in your board packet, and I'll actually share it on my screen real quick. But it was just, and Dr. Jones, if you can let me share this document. Thank you. This is obviously work of a lot of people all throughout Lamar CISD. Can I get a thumbs up if you can see that? Okay, perfect. And so what's amazing is that it has not even been 10 weeks since we first sent out our initial email regarding COVID-19. Now that seems like a long time, but the amount of work that's gone in from essentially business as usual to all the work that's occurring right now. And so what this is, it's an update, high level over some of the work that's occurred in Lamar CISD over these past almost 10 weeks. And, you know, we talked about all the resources that are going in, the tech checkouts that are occurring, the meal distribution, but you see throughout this document a high level overview when you speak to academics, how we've had 2 phases of remote learning based upon feedback from the community and even our school board members. We have implemented our random 10 check-in process, and what our principals have done during phase 2 is they've actually randomly checked in with parents to make sure, how is this going? You know, how are you working with your teacher? How are the assignments going? And our campuses are making adjustments based upon the feedback from their parents and staff. You'll see here that in terms of laptops distributed, we're just under 3,700 at 3,688, and we have had just under 34,000 students who have logged into our learning management system throughout COVID-19, which is Canvas. In terms of communication, obviously staying in touch with our community is important. I know a minute ago, Ms. Kaminsky, you talked about the connection with our SROs who have been out and about on our campuses doing their duty, also assisting with anything that might occur with meal distribution. In terms of social media engagement, we're at 786,000 engagements over the past 10 weeks. And then we created those 2 portals on our website. So we have a parent portal for for students and parents. And we also have a portal for staff, and we've had over 122,000 visits to that website just over the past 10 weeks. HR certainly has been busy around making sure that we're doing things appropriately and safe. But what's also interesting is that the district had its first ever virtual job fair. And so having 700 individuals register for a virtual job fair and then having a 75% participation rate, it was really exciting to see the engagement there and all of our campuses participating and looking for those new candidates for the new school year. In finance, we've had a lot of work going on, obviously 32.5 million in payments to ensure that our bond construction projects are continuing. Accounts payable has issued 1,397 checks while paying approximately 4,000 invoices. And so a lot of work continues, not just with our teachers and folks in central administration, but folks all throughout Lamar CISD continue to work to get things done. And then obviously in support services, we're averaging still well over 3,600 meals a day, a little bit of drop off this week. But when you look at all the work that our custodial crews have done with the e-misting and the cleaning to ensure that when we do have folks coming in for that remote checkout, et cetera, or we have folks in child nutrition still out there every single day, again, we're averaging about 3,600 meals, and we have distributed just under 117,000 meals over this past almost 10-week period. And so this is a high-level overview. What we're going to do each month, so next month we'll provide another update like this, which is high level, which will have some updated statistics about the work that's occurring in Lamar CISD. But again, for anybody, if they go out to our website, they'll see right at the top information for our COVID-19 response. And so we've got frequently asked questions, we've got student mental health resources, internet safety tips for parents, more information about our grading policies, and then we also launched that student help desk. And so as we still have a couple of weeks left of school, if anyone has anything that they want some assistance with, we have those resources out there. So this was a high-level overview, and again, like Dr. Randall said, we're certainly pleased with all the work that's happening, and just a big thank you to all of our staff members, all of our parents, and our students for the work that's occurred over the past 2 months.
Thank you. Mr. Hunt? Oh, unmute yourself. Sorry.
I assume that the meal distribution is going to end at the end of the school year, is that right?
We'll let either Chris or Monica touch on that.
We go with guidance from the Texas Department of Agriculture, and we were given permission, schools are given permission to do the grab and go meals throughout the rest of the school year. We were recently notified that if schools and districts wanted to, that we could continue that program through August. We continue to see a high number of need out there for meals. So we have, we are completing the application and waiver with TDA to continue that process through August, where we will be able to serve grab and go meals at our distribution sites.
So things should, if that's all approved, things would continue like the way that they're operating now, just through the end of August.
That is correct. We will continue with the same process.
So do you have that approval already, or are you waiting for approval?
Monica, where are we at in the process?
You there?
Oh, I think you're muted, Monica.
Okay, sorry. We are approved. We've filled out all of the waivers that are necessary. They just extended the waivers that I've already applied for.
Okay, so we'll be getting that information out to the public pretty soon?
Yes.
Good, that they will know. All right, thank you.
I have a question. Dr.
Sure.
Hopkins, when you said we've distributed almost 3,700 laptops, very impressive. What's the thought of how to retrieve those laptops when school is out? And what happens if a child accidentally dropped one and it's not working? Is there...
So actually, that's a great question. Part of this process, we have created a transition team for closeout procedures And we've had a staff meeting twice, most recently last week, to finalize those procedures. And just this evening, staff members and also parents received our closeout procedures for this school year. And so that includes technology return and some other options. Terry, would you like to speak specifically about the laptops, or David could talk about the issue for damages?
Yeah, very quickly. Oh, sorry, Dr. Monson.
Okay. Just from the academic standpoint, one of the things that we do want is to see is maximizing, still continuing trying to touch the kids as we move forward through the summer. And so we do know that we want to provide an opportunity for parents who do want to check their technology in. However, there are a number of kids that we want to continue to engage both in our summer programs and through just the Department of Academics in a virtual model with some of our kids so that they can continue learning. And the laptops and keeping a lot of them with our kids over the summer, we feel will help that and assist us. One of the things we're concerned about is COVID slide. You've heard about summer slide. And we want to ensure that we're trying to do everything that we can to ensure that our kids continue to learn and are engaged over the summertime. And again, our technology is a way to do that. David?
And Mr. Welch, the quick answer to your question is we have accidental damage coverage on all of our laptops.
So would the parents have to turn it in or call and say, can we keep this over the summer? Because I did read, or actually I printed what the strategies are, that they're going to be having days that they can drive through and drop off the laptops at the various schools. Would the parents just need to notify their campuses that they'd like to keep the laptop over the summer, or how is that going to work?
We have documentation currently of the kids at each campus that have checked out a laptop. And so it's those that want to check them in, because we do realize that parents sometimes are traveling or they're not interested in keeping their technology. We've heard that as well. And so it's just about the schools will be communicating with those kids, and it's only those that want to turn them in that will be turning them in as we move forward.
So we have documentation of where every laptop is.
Absolutely, yes.
For now.
Yes. No, and again, we've had a lot of kids engaging in our Canvas systems, and what we're hearing from our teachers, which is very, it's annoying to hear, is that they've kind of found a groove within virtual learning. And so the learning curve has kind of settled, and a lot of them are utilizing this opportunity for a lot of creative and innovative things to do with their kids. And we want to continue to do that in some form or fashion throughout the summer to prepare kids for the next school year.
Thank you. Is there any other questions or comments? I do want to say, Ms. Williams and I did drive around a couple of weeks ago to thank our food nutritionists, and the SROs were there, and they're so happy. They're such a, they just are so happy doing what they're doing for our kids, and we sure do appreciate, because when parents drive up, they feel comfortable picking up their breakfasts and lunches, and I appreciate all they're doing for our kids.
Are there any questions regarding the Lamar Consolidated ISD Police Department update? Madam President, if there are no questions, that concludes all of the action items as well as the information items.
Okay, you're muted if you're talking.
There we go. All right. Thank you, Dr. Randall. So that concludes our action and information items. And I believe, Dr. Randall, you said we would be going to closed session on Thursday evening. So it is now 8:04, and if there, or now 8:05, so if there's no other questions, we can adjourn our meeting for tonight.
Okay.
Yes,
Can I request to go to a closed session?
I believe that we're prepared to go to closed session for Thursday.
Okay, I had consulted, I think, with Mr. Morris. So, okay, I would have preferred to go to closed session this afternoon, just to discuss a couple of issues that are coming up for Thursday. Can we refer to Mr. Morris if that is something we could do?
I'm sorry, this is Rick Morris. It's certainly something that you legally can do to discuss certain items that are included with the closed session agenda, but it's generally the prerogative of the board chair, the board president, to decide when you're going to have that closed session discussion.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, Ms. Kaminsky.
I think I have something to just report on a personal basis, and I would rather do that tonight, if that's at all feasible. If it does not follow protocol, I'll wait.
I'm just not sure if we're ready to go to closed session, if we're prepared to do that virtually.
As it's set up?
Yes, that's what I'm concerned about.
Okay.
It's not like we're in the boardroom and just can get up and walk over there.
Right. Okay. I think I just misunderstood.
That was what I had understood, that it was being set up for Thursday night. That's what I had understood. I didn't know if it was being set up for tonight and Thursday night.
Well, no one is saying it is, so I guess they weren't notified. Okay.
Nope.
Dr. Randall?
No, to answer the question, I think from a technical perspective, we can go into closed session. I think that from that perspective, the staff, I'd have to double check with them.
We can, Dr. Randall.
I will just, besides Ms. Kaminsky, is another board member that'd like to go into closed session tonight, or wait till Thursday night?
I understand the logistics.
Okay. I don't hear anybody else that's wanting to go into closed session tonight.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Ms. Kaminsky.
Okay, Ms. Stanzer, or President. So is it something on the agenda? It sounded like she's saying there's something personal. So I guess I'm conflicted, because if it's something if it's not related to the agenda, but something personal that she needs to share with us, is that what I'm gathering, or am I?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. I didn't know if you were muted, or you're muted.
I wasn't, but I just turned it back on. I was just saying, Ms. Kaminsky, are you saying it's something on the agenda that we're going to be talking about for Thursday, or are you?
Yes, it's something that's related to what's going to be going on Thursday behind in closed session, and I just felt like that I would rather take the opportunity today to do that, but I understand the logistics, and we'll just have to deal with it as it is. It's okay.
Okay. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, Miss Williams. I don't know if my computer's deciding it didn't want to work.
You're freezing up on me on my screen, so maybe it's, who knows?
Maybe.
No telling.
I know.
And I just was under the impression, but I did not think about the logistics that we would have to put in a special request. So,
okay.
I had talked to Mr. Morris about protocol. Yeah, I was just under a different impression. So,
Okay.
we'll deal with it, Thursday.
On Thursday night. All right, if I don't hear anybody else that has something else for tonight, it's now 8:10 and I will close the meeting. Meeting's adjourned.